Imagine a place that sells itself as paradise, yet hides scenes that feel like the underworld. Florida's sparkling beaches and palm-lined parks look perfect from a distance. But beneath that postcard glow, sidewalks, and even the dark space under bridges have become home for thousands in South Florida. "I hate this law. It strips us of dignity," cries one man forced to sleep outside. "Being without a roof is not a crime. It is just my bad luck," another lifelong Floridian adds. "I was born here, yet there is no room for me anymore." The state once carried the gentle nickname of America's retirement dream. Millions traded snowy homes in Ohio or New York for tidy lawns in Sarasota or Naples. Back then, every breeze promised a peaceful sunset to hardworking people who had earned a rest. That promise is breaking apart. Glittering resorts still glow after dark, and tourists sip wine by the ocean as if nothing changed. Walk a few blocks inland, though, and you meet families packed into rusted cars, older veterans huddling by storefronts, and entire rows of tents flapping under highway ramps. This is more than one community's tragedy. It is a warning sign for every corner of the nation. A single twist of fate can shove anyone off the map, turning a former homeowner into a shadow on the very street they once drove in comfort. Our story follows two Floridas side by side. One dazzles with five-star hotels, $500 dinners, and world-class events under neon lights. The other sinks into misery, where the American dream decays inch by inch beneath tired gazes that even police hesitate to meet. What happened next is even more shocking. During the 1980s, retirees filled moving trucks heading south, eager for warm winters and friendly neighbors. They pictured sunny porches, steady pensions, and easy mornings with coffee under palm trees. Community planners promised security and gentle days until life's final chapter. Yet cold policy choices and a razor-sharp focus on rapid growth have eaten away that calm vision. New towers rise for investors while modest homes slam into demolition crews. Rent controls vanish. Taxes fund tourist fireworks instead of neighborhood clinics. Those who built the state see their foothold crumble. Picture a 72-year-old woman who once greeted children as a school secretary. Her husband left, insurance doubled, and no grown children could help. Powerless to pay the bills, she sleeps in a faded pickup at a 24-hour parking lot, eating dry cereal and praying the night air stays mild. "I never dreamed it would end like this," she whispers. Streets that once felt safe now bristle with makeshift encampments. Coconut trees no longer offer enough shade for rows of tents that line the sand. That shining promise of Florida fades in real time, and the question grows louder. Can anyone still count on a gentle old age? Or is that dream only a memory whispered on warm breezes? Under the bright sun, tourists snap photos of snow-white beaches. But step off the main drag, and you find an underground world breathing in discarded plastic, crushed hope, and plain neglect. More than 31,000 Floridians lack stable shelter right now. Many outsiders assume homelessness equals laziness. In truth, the root cause here is brutal math. Wages trail far behind exploding rent, safety nets shrink, and even full-time workers fall into the gap. Look at Angelia Woods. She once balanced million-dollar budgets as a senior accountant for the state transportation agency. After the pandemic cost her job, she was forced out of her apartment and then watched rent rocket beyond reach. "How can an accountant be homeless?" people ask. She answers, "Every dollar goes to survive. Nothing is left to move forward." Angelia now squeezes with her 4 children into one cramped motel room that costs almost $2,000 each month. Her salary keeps them above the aid line, yet below any chance of saving for a new lease. Her struggle proves that the streets no longer target only the poor. A growing shadow stretches over the entire middle class. Tent villages bloom beneath elevated freeways near shiny shopping centers. Some blocks have become no-go zones for patrol cars, not from lack of care, but from the sheer weight of despair that uniforms alone cannot lift. City leaders still funnel billions into glossy festivals, global conferences, and endless tourism ads. At the same time, funding for shelters, mental health support, and affordable housing freezes or even shrinks. Before each global summit, crews sweep away tent camps like dust from the front porch, hiding the problem instead of solving it. Florida's boom now builds a separate caste of invisible citizens. They are pushed aside not only in wealth, but also in the public story. The headlines praise record visitor numbers while the original neighbors fade from view, forced to live in the shadows of their once cherished home. They have no part in Florida's booming image. So, slowly but surely, they vanish from the community's view. But when every city seems swallowed by this shadow, can any place truly be called a paradise? They call Miami paradise. And sure enough, from the sky, it's breathtakingly gorgeous. But look closer, skip the shiny skyscrapers and glance down at the street corners. You'll see a Miami you've never imagined. Parking lots crowded with tents, families curled up beside garbage bags, and the heartbreaking cries of hungry children echoing through the air. This is Miami, a paradise teetering on the edge of hell. Nowhere in America shows the shocking divide between rich and poor quite like Miami. It hosts glamorous international conferences, luxurious fashion weeks, and dinners priced at $500 overlooking the ocean. But at the same time, homelessness steadily grows. In downtown and Overtown alone, nearly 9,000 people struggle daily without stable housing. And some neighborhoods have grown so dangerous, even the police confess they won't patrol unless absolutely necessary. The scary part? This isn't sudden poverty, it's deliberate neglect. Miami pours millions into beautifying its tourist spots, hosting high-profile events, and polishing its image. But funding for social housing, mental health care, and homeless support has steadily disappeared. When tent cities are cleared, people aren't helped back into society. Instead, they're quietly forced out of sight. In Miami, support only goes to people who matter, says one frustrated resident. Here, it's all about your money or your connections. Authorities claim it's urban order, but people living in tents know the ugly truth. It's simply erasing humans whose value is measured by their wallet. Can a city call itself civilized if veterans sleep on sidewalks, while millions are spent showing off to the world? Miami's beauty, built on empty glamour, will soon fade into a haunting shell. Is Florida still a beautiful getaway? Or is it now just cleverly hiding despair under bright sunlight? You might work full-time, carry no debt, and avoid luxury, but still struggle desperately to get by in Florida. This harsh reality is hidden beneath every bill, every paycheck eaten up by soaring rents in a state once called retirement heaven. Florida used to promise an easy retirement or a fresh start at lower costs than northern states. That dream is quickly shattering. A modest one-bedroom apartment in Tampa now rents for over $2,200 per month, 3 times higher than just 10 years ago. In Miami, the average rent for basic shelter exceeds $2,700. But Florida's median salary remains stuck around $45,000 a year, forcing workers to spend almost their entire paychecks just on housing. It's an impossible situation, especially brutal for those living on social benefits or fixed incomes. Every week, hundreds of families lose their homes because their incomes simply can't keep up with costs. Prices rise for everything except wages. While ordinary people struggle, wealthy investors are rushing in like sharks, smelling blood. Entire apartment blocks are bought and rented at shocking prices. First one apartment, then another, until whole buildings become cash machines for the rich, pushing everyone else to the brink. Meanwhile, Florida's government stands quietly by. The state has no rent controls, no restrictions on sudden price hikes, and no rules requiring investors to reserve affordable housing. Everything is left unchecked, serving only the wealthy. If you think you're safe because you're not yet impacted, imagine your children, your grandchildren. Will they afford an apartment to start their lives? Can a single mom working 60 hours a week ever save enough to move her child out of a makeshift tent in a Walmart parking lot? This isn't just inflation. This is a crisis that threatens the very idea that hard work guarantees a stable home and a decent life. If that's no longer true, can the American dream still exist? In a country famous for plentiful food, it's shocking to realize that a hot meal has become a luxury for thousands. Right in the heart of Florida, one of America's wealthiest states, long lines form each day. People wait quietly, patiently, not for fancy dinners, but just for cold noodles, stale bread, or expired canned beans. And even waiting doesn't guarantee they'll eat. This desperate scene unfolds everywhere, outside supermarkets, in parking lots, church steps, and forgotten parks. Elderly folks, hungry kids, veterans, single mothers, forcing a line not because they want free food, but because they have no other choice. Today in wealthy Florida, full meals are vanishing. Statistics from Feeding Tampa Bay show that 1 in 6 adults face food insecurity. Even worse, 1 in 7 seniors must choose daily between food, rent, or vital medication. This crisis isn't caused by a natural disaster. It's directly tied to disastrous policy choices. Food inflation has driven prices of meat, eggs, vegetables, and milk to their highest levels in decades. At the same time, food aid programs like SNAP and food stamps have been cut back or limited severely. Local food banks, critical during the pandemic, are now overwhelmed financially and understaffed, barely able to help. But beyond the numbers, there are real faces. People growing weaker each day from hunger. He's 64 years old, a retired power worker who had to stop after a job-related injury. With a small pension, he cuts every corner to survive. Still, it's not enough to keep up with today's prices. 3 times a week, he pedals nearly 10 kilometers on his bike just to reach a food distribution center in Tampa. Last week, when he arrived, they told him they'd already run out of meals. I never imagined that, in my lifetime, a simple meal would become such a rare privilege. He shared, "Florida has long been painted as a land of sunshine, fresh produce, and endless abundance. But that image no longer matches the truth. Even in the farming towns that once fed the country, the very people who plant and pack that food, the farmers, the pickers, the workers, are now among the first to go hungry. When a nation can no longer feed its elderly, its children, or its sick, the issue isn't about money. It's about heart. Because when fireworks are funded while soup kitchens close, when luxury events are prioritized over hunger relief, something deeper is breaking. Sure, you might drive down Florida's freshly paved roads and not see any of this. But that doesn't mean it's not there. It just means we've built our fences high enough to avoid looking at the truth. If a hot meal is now considered a luxury, what exactly is normal anymore? There are workers waking up at 5 a.m. They wear uniforms, clock in on time, do their jobs with care, and pay their taxes. These aren't lazy freeloaders. They're the servers, delivery drivers, hospital janitors, warehouse workers, and cashiers. The people who keep Florida running. And yet, after their shifts, they don't go home. They return to parking lots. They climb into old cars with sheets over the windows. They crawl under bridges or unzip tents set up by the roadside. These are the new homeless. People who work full-time, but still can't afford a place to sleep. Having a job no longer means having stability. That's the painful truth. The problem isn't laziness. It's the total collapse between what labor is worth and what life now costs. In Florida, someone working full-time on minimum wage would need to work over 80 hours a week just to afford a 1-bedroom apartment at market rent. Even with a better paycheck, if 70% of your earnings go to rent, you're already drowning, double the state's recommended limit. Freelancers like delivery drivers, cleaners, and part-time workers face even worse. They put in the work, but the system isn't built to support them. Most policies don't account for this new type of labor force, and many of them slip right through the cracks, ending up in unstable, short-term housing, even when they're doing everything right. More and more Americans are finding themselves in this trap, working hard, but getting nowhere. And that leads to the bigger question: is effort still enough to earn a safe life and a place to call home? Because in the end, the scariest part isn't just losing your house, it's losing hope, losing the belief that things can get better. And when people reach that point, when food disappears and wages don't cover rent, they're left clinging to one last thread: government help. But that lifeline is breaking. The Florida Policy Institute has already warned that proposed federal budget cuts could hit programs like Medicaid, food stamps, and housing aid, leaving millions at risk of losing access to vital support. The reasons behind these cuts sound polished: balancing the budget, encouraging independence, efficient spending. But behind the nice words is a hard truth. People can't stand back up if there's nothing solid to hold on to. These aren't just financial cuts. They're the cutting away of society's basic promise to its people. A truly civilized country isn't measured by its golf courses or skyline. It's measured by how it treats the weak, the elderly, and the vulnerable. Florida's tax system may be praised for being business-friendly, no personal income tax, but it has also stripped funding from social programs. And when economic pressure hits, the first things to go are the ones meant to help those with no voice. We like to say no one gets left behind, but with no affordable housing, no access to medicine, and no safety net, where are our seniors supposed to go? How will someone who can't work survive? Where do 40-year workers end up when their money runs out? Because when society stops caring for its weakest, it starts losing its soul. Florida was once a dream, a land of retirement under warm skies, a place where families could live without drowning in bills. But that vision is collapsing with every new eviction, every empty food shelf, every tent staked in a hidden corner. If you still think homelessness is a temporary glitch caused by economic shocks, it's time to look again. Florida is no longer a dream destination. It's quietly becoming a place people are forced to leave. Reports show that young adults, middle-class families, and workers are quietly packing up and moving out. Not because they don't love Florida, but because they simply can't afford to stay. And that should be a wake-up call. Florida isn't just a state. It's becoming a mirror reflecting what's happening across the country. When housing becomes a privilege instead of a right, when welfare is seen as a burden instead of a duty, when we blame the poor for a broken system, the warning signs are flashing. What's happening isn't a sudden collapse. It's a slow, silent erosion, policy by policy, price hike by price hike, until one day, you realize the safety net is gone. Florida still has sunshine. There's still beaches. Tourists will keep checking in, posting perfect pictures. But underneath all that gloss, millions of people are holding on by a thread, unsure what tomorrow will bring, or if tomorrow will come at all. Florida didn't fall because of war or disaster. It's crumbling from quiet neglect, inflation ignored, needs overlooked, whole families disappearing for view. This isn't just a collection of sad stories. It's a sign of a society breaking from the inside out. We didn't make this video to offer an easy fix. But if you felt even a flicker of sadness, anger, or doubt while watching, then that's a start. Because change always begins with one thing: seeing the truth. What are your thoughts on Florida's homelessness crisis? Leave a comment below. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to stay informed and keep this conversation going. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. This video was created to raise awareness and open conversation based on public records, real stories, and verified sources. It does not represent any political group or government agency. The goal is not to mislead, but to inform and reflect, honestly, clearly, and respectfully.